Welcome to Offbeat Gyan. I am Deepa Nair and today I will be talking about Book 1 of Virgil's epic poem, the Aeneid. Lines 1 to 222 are prescribed for the PG 5th semester English literature students of Manon Maniam Sundarnar University. So in this particular video, I will be talking about the first 30 or so lines from this section. I have divided it into two sections. So in this particular video, I will be talking about roughly the first 30 lines, and the lines will appear on the screen so you can refer to it, and I will try to give you a line by line explanation because the Aeneid is full of classical references, and the beauty of the poem is enhanced when you understand the various classical references which have been used by Virgil to enrich this lovely epic, this lovely great epic called the Aeneid, which is built upon the character of Aeneas, the Trojan warrior, the Trojan hero. So why did Virgil set out to write the Aeneid? Virgil was somebody who was a part of the inner circle of Emperor Augustus or Emperor Octavian. Augustus had managed to defeat Antony and Cleopatra, and he had established his control over the Roman Empire. So he wanted an epic poem to be written that would celebrate the glory and the grandness of the Roman Empire. So he commissioned Virgil to write such a poem. That is, every nation has certain myths, and those myths enhance the glory of that nation. So Octavian or Augustus, he gave the task of writing the mythical history of the Roman Empire to Virgil. It was a huge task, and Virgil was someone who was very qualified to fulfill and perform this task. It took him around 10 years to finish this epic, and to finish means he was not able to complete the epic. He was actually unsatisfied with what he had written, and when he was about to die, he actually told the people beside him to destroy what he had written thus far. But Augustus was very, very particular that whatever Virgil had written till then should be published. So it was published after the death of Virgil. Virgil was looking for a hero on whom he could build this poem of epic proportions. So he sought help from Homer's Iliad, which was written many years ago. And Grecian literature or Greek literature comes first. It is the first of the Western literatures, followed by Roman literature. So Virgil, he was somebody who belonged to Rome. He had been entrusted with the task of writing an epic poem which would celebrate the glory of the Roman Empire. So what he did was he read Homer's Iliad, and from that he picked up a small minor character, a Trojan character called Aeneas, and he decided to make Aeneas the hero of his epic poem, that is the Aeneid. So Aeneas was driven out of Troy after the Trojan War. The Trojans had been defeated by the Greeks. They had been completely vanquished by the Greeks. The Greeks had set off on their voyage back home. If you remember Ulysses, after the Trojan War, he returns to his home, and all through the way he faces a number of obstacles and difficulties. Similarly, the Aeneid is built on Book 1 of the Aeneid talks about the difficulties, the problems, the obstacles that were faced by Aeneas on his journey to found the Roman Empire. Aeneas had left the Trojan coast with his fleet of ships. There were 7 ships and they were sailing across the high seas towards Italy, where Aeneas planned to set up his new kingdom. And he was carrying his gods with him. All the temples, everything had been destroyed in the Trojan War. So he was looking for a place where he could establish these idols, these gods, and build temples. And this was the task that was entrusted upon Aeneas by Virgil in his epic poem. So book 1 describes the journey of Aeneas from the Trojan coast to Italy. And the first section that I will be talking about today, it talks about his journey up to Carthage. Okay, so what I'll do is I will read a couple of lines, give an explanation, then move on to the next set of lines, give an explanation. Okay, so arms and the man I sing, who, forced by fate and haughty Juno's unrelenting hate, expelled and exiled, left the Trojan shore. Arms and the man I sing. Virgil says that I am going to sing about arms, I am going to sing about weapons, and I am going to sing about this heroic character called Aeneas. He does not mention the name Aeneas, but he says that I am going to sing about this hero and his adventurous exploits. Then he says, this man about whom I am going to sing, this man whose story I am going to tell you, he had been thrown out of his homeland. He had been thrown out of Troy by Juno, the queen of the gods and goddesses. Juno had been very angry with Aeneas, and Juno was responsible for Aeneas traveling on the high seas, encountering all these obstacles on his journey to found the Roman Empire. So, arms and the man I sing, who, forced by fate and haughty Juno's unrelenting hate. Juno has never stopped hating Aeneas. Juno is continuously angry with Aeneas, and it is her anger, it is her resentment, it is her avengeful attitude towards Aeneas which has compelled him to undertake this perilous and difficult journey far away from his home shore of Troy and embark on this great epic voyage. Moving on to the next section. Labors both by sea and land he bore, and in the doubtful war, before he won the Latian realm and built the destined town. These lines talk about the various difficulties that he encountered. He encountered problems both on the sea and on the land. While the fleet was traveling, all through the journey, they encountered so many troubles, they encountered so many problems and obstacles. And then he had to fight a battle. He had to fight a very great battle before he could establish the Latian realm, before he could establish the Roman Empire and built the destined town. It had already been predestined that Aeneas would be the one who would set up the foundation of the great Roman Empire. Now here you have to remember that this is mythical history. Mythical history differs from actual history. So Virgil built this mythical history about the Roman Empire being set up by Aeneas on the request of the Emperor Augustus. Emperor Augustus, he wanted to showcase the glory of the Roman Empire. So, if you want to showcase the glory of something, then you have to trace the origin from something really great and magnificent. So that is why Virgil created this hero. He did not create. What he did was he borrowed this minor Trojan hero called Aeneid from Homer's epic work, the Iliad, and he built a story around Aeneid, a great story of adventure, of courage, of bravery, of sacrifice, of death, of resentment, of the anger of gods and goddesses against ordinary human beings, of a man who stood for justice, who stood for fairness. That is Aeneid, somebody who symbolized justice, somebody who symbolized courage, somebody who symbolized adventure, somebody who symbolized great stability and strength. So Virgil gives us the mythical build-up to the creation of the Roman Empire. Now moving on to the explanation of the next couple of lines. His banished gods restored to rights divine and settled sure succession in his line, from whence the race of Alban fathers come and the long glories of majestic Rome. Once he had defeated his enemies and he had established the foundation of the Roman Empire, what he did next was he built temples for his banished gods. The gods, the idols that had been destroyed by the Greeks after the Trojan War, he had brought them with him in his ship. So as soon as he defeated his enemies and he had control over Rome, the next thing that he did was he built temples where he could establish these idols, his ancient gods and goddesses. And he also ensured that he would have a line of kings to follow him to ensure the stability of the Roman Empire that he had set the foundation of. Aeneas' son Ascanius. Aeneas was succeeded by his son Ascanius. And after Ascanius comes a long line of legendary kings known as the kings of Alba Longa. So the line of succession is set. First comes Aeneas, then you have Ascanius, and then we have the long line of kings from Alba Longa. That is a 400-year period. After the kings of Alba Longa comes the story of Romulus and Remus, and Romulus establishing the Roman Empire sometime in 8th century BC. So the line is continuous from Aeneas, and the mythical history has been the foundation of the mythical history for the glory of the Roman Empire has been laid out by Virgil. Okay, I hope that is clear. I am moving on to the next section of the poem. O Muse, the causes and the crimes relate, what goddess was provoked, and whence her hate? For what offense the Queen of Heaven began to persecute so brave, so just a man? O Muse, Virgil addresses the goddess of poetry. He addresses the Muse and he says, O Muse, the causes and crimes relate. Whatever has happened during this long and difficult journey of Aeneas, that provides the reasons and the effect of the anger of one particular goddess against Aeneas. So Virgil is wondering, why is the queen of gods and goddesses, that is Juno or Hera, why is she angry with this brave man? Why is she so angry with this brave, courageous, honorable, just man? What is the reason for her resentment? What is the reason for her creating so many difficulties in the path of Aeneas' journey to the foundation of a new empire? So Virgil keeps on asking to what offense? What is the offense that has been committed by Aeneas? Why is he being persecuted so much? The next couple of lines. Involved his anxious life in endless cares, exposed to wants and hurried into wars. His life is filled with anxiety, it is filled with worry, it is filled with tension. Why is his life like this? Why is the goddess making his life so miserable? Why is he being pushed from one conflict to the next one? He has to fight not only the elements of nature, he has to fight human or mortal enemies. And as soon as he clears one crisis, as soon as he overcomes one problem, another problem is waiting around the corner. So it is a very perilous journey that is being undertaken by Aeneas, and Virgil is asking, what is the reason for the goddess being so angry with Aeneas that she is continuously creating problems for him, both in the form of natural elements and in the form of mortal enemies who are out to kill him. Exposed his wants and hurried into wars, can heavenly minds such high resentment show, or exercise their spite to human woe? So Virgil is wondering, the gods and the goddesses, they are supposed to be divine, they are supposed to be far better than human beings. Why do they display so much anger? Why do they display so much resentment against ordinary mortals, against ordinary human beings? He's sort of asking us a question. Is it right on the part of the gods and goddesses to involve themselves in such petty quarrels? Is it right on their part to show so much spite and anger and vengeance towards ordinary human beings? Then the next section of the poem. Against the Tiber's mouth, but far away, an ancient town was seated on the sea. The Tiber falls into the Mediterranean Sea. Opposite to the place where the mouth of the Tiber is located, just opposite to that was the ancient city of Carthage. Carthage is actually modern day Tunisia. So Carthage is in Africa, and right opposite to that comes the European continent with Italy. Our story, Virgil's Aeneid, is set in modern Italy or ancient Rome. So against the Tiber's mouth, but far away, an ancient town was seated on the sea. Against the Tiber's mouth, right opposite to the Tiber's mouth, but very far away across the Mediterranean Sea. On the African coast, there was an ancient city, a Tyrian colony. The people made stout for the war and studious for their trade. The Tyrian people or the ancient Phoenicians. They were amazing traders, they were extremely hardworking, they were extremely enterprising, and they were very good at whatever they did. So Carthage was populated by the Phoenicians or the ancient Tyrians. Stout of build, that is what Virgil says here. The people made stout for the war. Not only were they good businessmen, they were also very courageous warriors, and they were very prosperous traders. They used to travel throughout the ancient world, and they used to carry their merchandise and goods to different parts of the world, and that is how Carthage had become one of the most prosperous, and in fact it was the golden city of the ancient world. Carthage, the name beloved by Juno more than her own Argos on the Samaean shore. Now Juno belongs to Argos in Greece, but she loved Carthage more than Argos. Carthage was a city which was close to her heart. She considered it to be her beloved city, and she was its protector, she was its caretaker. And Carthage was one of the most prominent and wealthiest, most prosperous cities of the ancient world, and Carthage is modern day Tunisia. Carthage is located in the African continent, and Carthage was actually much greater at that point of time during the Carthage was actually a very great kingdom at that point of time when the Roman Empire was gradually expanding its influence all across Europe. And Virgil here is making a reference to the Punic Wars, which were fought between the Roman Empire and the Carthaginians. Okay, I think I will conclude with these lines in this video because the video has already become too long. So I'll be explaining the next section of lines in the next video on the book 1 of the Aeneid. Hope this explanation is good enough. Hope you will understand what I have been talking about or blabbering about. And in case you have suggestions about the kind of content that I am making, in case you have some other topics that you would wish me to cover, then please put it in the comment box and I will definitely work on making those videos. So thank you for watching and see you until the next time.